All right, everyone. Welcome back to a deep look into the paranormal podcast, where we look into all things paranormal, supernatural, otherworldly. You'd say cryptids, how movie monsters are actually some of them are based off of real people, to cryptids and all that in between. Today, we are actually going to be discussing paranormal investigation itself, like investigating the haunted spots and the different types of equipment that they use. Today I'm joined by my co-host David Wills, my wonderful husband, and I am Jennifer Wills.
Hello.
Um Alrighty then. Uh to delve into it right now, we are I actually have drug him into a paranormal investigation a couple of times. I prefer to call myself a believer, a curious believer. I want to go out and explore and see what's out there. He is curious and a believer, but would rather kind of sit in the backseat, so to speak. Right?
uh, I'm a believer, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I want to be able to have strong, definite proof.
Yeah, but the thing is, to go out and get that proof, you
Yeah, no, I'm good.
you're yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're curious a bit. You are a believer, and you're curious, but you don't want to actually go out where I do.
I've seen enough horror movies to know how that's how the horror movie starts.
Uh, mm. But anyway, um, there are many types of ghost hunting out there. There's or paranormal investigation. It depends on how you personally um, view it. Some of it go for the thrill of the hunt to see if they can see something. You know, basically to get the shit scared out of them. Excuse my language, but it's kind of based on it. Paranormal investigating is more towards the scientific aspect of it to get the honest proof to debunk if necessary. Um, I'm a little of both, but since ghost hunting became a or paranormal investigating became a thing, uh, different types of equipment has emerged to help achieve that goal of um, getting different types of evidence collected from um, disembodied voices, footsteps, shadow figures, full body apparitions, and things of that nature. And we are going to delve into some of those and how they work later. Um, but first things first, in whether you're ghost hunting or paranormal investigating, make sure that you always let someone know where you're going, what time you're planning on leaving. Never, ever, ever do this alone because you don't know what happens if you're not able to reach anybody because your cell battery died. What happens if you got seriously hurt? You have no way out. It's
Oh,
very dangerous. You could also become possessed, which is a thing. You could also sit here and end up, bringing an attachment home unknowingly, especially depending on what you do.
also, just want to give a public safety announcement of please follow all state and local laws.
Yes, yes,
Trespassing is a crime. Vandalism is a bigger crime, and it not only disrespects the area, it disrespects anything you're trying to achieve by doing it.
yes. So if you're going to a place, get permission first. Um, but moving on, there are many types of ghost hunting equipment out there, and each piece has many varieties of it that exist. Each unique piece has a range value from approximately $10 to several hundred, if not higher. And though some pieces look as if they are straight out of Phasmophobia, the game itself, which is based off of real life paranormal investigating, um, they are in fact real ghost hunting equipment. Ghost hunting in or paranormal investigating, if you prefer, in general, does not relate to the video game at all. It isn't for the faint of heart and is something you should never do solo, like we just got done discussing, because there are dangerous possibilities out there. The reason for that comes from many consequences. If you're alone, you will be in a serious danger. The site, depending on where you go, might be unstable and or so far out that you have no cell reception. If you get into trouble, you're out of luck. And with no reception, you're kind of SOL. If you are, if you fall or go missing, which has been known to happen, no one will be able to find you. You could even be killed and no one would know until it was too late. That is why it is always best to be in a group and have a buddy system in place. Less likelihood of those types of things happening, and should you get hurt, the group as a whole will be able to help get you out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Some entities are not very welcoming to investigations or people, coming in and saying, hello, we're here to hear your story, or they knock on stuff or they move something around. It can be very triggering even for the spirit. Some
Well,
spirits,
I'll put it this way: if someone walked into your house and said, "Hey, show me something," are you gonna be happy?
exactly. But that's the thing is like there are different types of entities out there, I should say, are haunts. There's the intelligent haunt where you get actual responses from the spirit, whether it be human or inhuman. Most of the time, when it's inhuman, you're going to get a lot of growling. There's shadow figures. There's ectoplasm, which is in the form of mists that come out of nowhere and sometimes take a shape. Of course, full body apparitions, disembodied voices, footsteps. You could feel someone tug on your hair, your clothes, push you, punch you, scratch the hell out of you. I mean, it is all sorts of different types of things. Even demonic entities are known to exist. So, yes, there is a heaven and there's a hell, whether you believe it or not.
And even if you don't believe anything, there is one thing you should definitely be wary of. Yeah, homeless person with a knife.
Yes, when you go to what is believed to be a abandoned area, an abandoned section of property or what have you, you could run into a squatter, and they're going to want to defend themselves, and they'll probably come at you with a knife or something else. So just be careful, take precautions. Get do your research of the area and the place. Um, Not just that, but when you're doing these types of things, also make sure you know how to cleanse yourself before and after, because you don't want something following you home, right?
There is bad juju out there.
Yes, very bad.
No reason to bring it home to you.
Um, like which is some of the things we will discuss in the next two episodes when we talk about Waverly Hills Sanatorium as well as Yorktown Memorial Hospital. Those two have bad things have happened there. They are dark. They have a very dark history and traumatic pasts. But some entities are not very welcoming to investigators. They may try to possess you, they may throw things at you, which has been caught on camera, things being thrown across the room by an unseen force, push you, touch you, pull your hair, choke you. Um, I know this for some people might sound kinky, but no, it's not. It's quite terrifying, actually. Um, some may even be reassuring and have a friendly voice. Um, Some might not even show themselves at all. Regardless, always be prepared, and don't go out of your way to aggro them or insult them or yell at them. Because, like the old adages, be careful what you wish for.
You just might get it.
Mm-hmm. You just might get it. You very well just might get it. Um, that the the usual results in a gentle or an entity lashing out to harm you or attach themselves to you to come home can lead to many problems in itself. Things going on at your house. You notice, you get that feeling like you're being watched. Um, and overall, it just gives you a very bad feeling. And until you're cleansed, you can continue to feel that, or it might get worse the more it prolongs. Um, and a lot of the things that people aren't aware of when investigating is, which is unfortunate, it's when it comes to children spirits. Children spirits are could very well be um, wanting your attention, wanting to tell their story, wanting to play with you, and things like that. But it's been noted that demons also portray themselves as children to lure you into a false sense of security. So it's like it's unfair to them because they can't get their word out sometimes if you're believing it might possibly be a demon. Or it could very well be a demon that's trying to do unfortunate things to you. Usually, the ones who see or are attacked more often are the skeptics, the non believers, and those who are weak willed. Um, there are many other types of entities out there from the residual. And residual means that it's like stuck in a loop. It continues to walk and do whatever it was doing throughout its life before it died and keeps doing that basically on a repeat, like a loop. It's not aware of you being there or your team being there or anything else being there. It's just constantly doing this thing over and over again. You will not really get a response from them. Um, there is, like with the intelligent haunts, you will actually receive some kind of message from them. They will answer questions or demand you to leave, or you will see them actively do something or move something. Um, and of course, the demonic, you'll get the growls, the red piercing eyes looking at you, a sense of real bad, um, like you feel like your skin's crawling and there's something behind you at all times. Just truly negative stuff. Um, let's see here. I'm looking at my notes.
Well, I know that's kind of what this episode is about. Is how you get those responses, how they communicate.
Exactly.
Their ways of letting you know that they're there.
Right. That is correct. That is very true. Um, and sometimes it can be positive and sometimes it can be negative. And in some cases, you might not receive anything at all. Where someone else down the road may find some information out or have an interaction. If it's an intelligent haunt, they pick and choose who they want to talk to. And you might not be one of them, which is unfortunate. Some of the ghosts that are known to be out are called funnel ghosts. They're usually seen in photos of visitors going to like historical locations, and when you look at it, you see like a person in period dressing. Like they weren't there before, so it gives you kind of a shock factor. Of course, the ectoplasm, the sudden appearance of mist or fog from out of nowhere that just kind of swirls about and kind of takes a shape before subtly disappearing. Of course, the famous orb. They're balls of.
And
Hmm?
yeah, and orbs are there's very specific. I know there's very specific um, criteria for something to actually be considered a true orb versus
A piece of dust.
a piece of dust, a bug.
Yeah, it's the
Uh,
way they move. It's very subtle, and if you're not watching it carefully, you might um, debunk it as a piece of dust.
well, I know the biggest way to tell if something is an orb
Hmm.
is if it's emanating its own light.
Yes, and
That is, I
it's usually very spherical.
yeah.
Dust doesn't have a particular shape. Orbs do, and they usually will go against the flow of something. Because you notice how dust kind of filters down, much like snow falling softly and gently, or the leaves. No, they will actually make direct movements.
Well, that and dust, you'll generally see more than just one piece, and they're
Mhm.
all generally moving in the same sort of direction, following the same pattern because they're following either there's a breeze, a wind, a
Mhm.
small little turbulence right there. They all tend to happen the same way.
Exactly. But they're often debunked and mistook as pieces of dust, which is unfortunate. And a lot of times when you do see an orb, you can see it go from one person to another as well. As if, almost as if the spirit left one person's side or body and went to another. Um, the next one is the apparition. Usually appears in period clothing or even modern day clothing. And if they like you, they may follow you around or even talk to you. You may even mistake them as a real person you are talking to and have a full blown conversation with them. And then by the time you turn back around to talk to them again, they're gone. That's those are one of the scary ones. They're also intelligent. Um,
Another good example of the apparition type entity is the hitchhiker. The hitchhiker story of the person walking by the graveyard. They just want a small ride. They talk to you for a bit. And by the time you get to the end of the graveyard, they're gone.
hmm Then of course the more famous of haunts, um, and actually more hard to prove, are the poltergeists. They are the ones who that go often go unseen, but are intelligent. They will open and close doors violently, and they may even hurl objects at you or do it all at once in one big burst. They are known to become aggressive, especially if they dislike you. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is one bit of trivia I know about poltergeists. Where does their name come from?
Where is that?
It comes from the term for noisy spirit.
Noisy spirit. Hmm.
Yeah, poltergeists uh, are known for being the loudest of haunts.
That is true, but they are often they are not seen. They are not proven. They are harder to find, but once found, if they don't like you, they will make it known until you either leave of your own free will or are forced out by their actions. Then, of course, you got the demonic. These type delight in causing you fear. They will take the appearance of the innocent to lure you in. They are extremely dangerous and have been known to possess the living. You will, and when you know if you've been possessed or not, during an investigation, you often, from what I've studied, people will lose bits of time from a
Yeah,
possession.
one of the common medical terms used for it is a fugue state, where you're up, you're moving around, you're not asleep, but your brain is basically off at that point, and something else is really at the wheel.
Exactly.
You may never get back to those memories of that time period.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the things that's actually, uh, when you're talking paranormal, fugue states happen not only with possessions, but you also get the same fugue state mentioned with uh, abductions, as well as some cryptid encounters have been known to cause a fugue or have dealt with a fugue state as well too.
Yeah. And a lot of things that people notice with possessions are more edged towards the demonic. Not always. I'll put it out there. Not always. Um, but other entities you need to be careful with are, of course, the crawlers, because they're known to crawl about the ground or on the sides of the walls or the ceilings. They're more shadowy in nature. Usually have uh, you'll notice their gaze as being red-eyed sometimes. Um, you always, when investigating, need to be careful around stairs because any entity, if aggravated, could push you and you would tumble down the stairs potentially and lose your own life. Um, those who have, if you're visiting a place where people have been hung, you will notice that you feel like you start to, some people will feel like they're starting to suffocate and actually have a rope burn, like a noose mark around their necks. I mean, this paranormal investigating needs to be taken completely and utterly seriously. Don't you agree?
I agree 100%. Anytime you are in a place that is dangerous during the daylight, being there at night does not make it safer.
Yes, I want to springboard off that. A lot of people think that ghosts only come out at night or during the witch's hour. No, they happen at any time of the day.
Yeah, the main difference between daylight hauntings is the amount of fear you have going through your system.
Yeah, because when it's dark, of course, you're going to be more frightened. But with daylight, you're like, at least there's the sunlight. At least there's hope.
I can see to the end of that hallway. I don't have to guess what's the end of the hallway.
Yes. Um, but let's move on to some of the different pieces of equipment that are used for gathering proof, evidence, if you were, that the paranormal exists, which they do exist.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we going to scatter shot this, just go bouncing back and forth, or do you have like a pattern for like simplest to most complex, or
No, I'm just gonna go through each little piece that I found, and we'll go through there and discuss the different types of said equipment.
okay?
Okay? Like this one. You see what this one is, right?
Yes, the uh, the radio scanner, also better known as.
The spirit box, which is I believe a PSB7 spirit box. A lot of
Mhm.
people have seen this device, of course, on the video game Phasmophobia, which really springboarded a bunch more other paranormal games out there. But this one actually effectively does work, whether you um, do a scan forward or scan backward. A scan backwards gonna definitely prove to be more effective, in my opinion, because everything's going in reverse. So they have to use enough energy to pluck words out and say it the right way. It may say a word, they may say a phrase. Um, you can use definitely use like a spirit or a amplifier type of attachment, like a speaker, so you could hear better the stuff that they speak out. But basically, what it does is it speeds through radio frequencies, and they use those radio frequencies because you won't be able to understand what's being said in those, and plucks words out to repeat back to you the words that they're trying to convey to you when you're asking questions. And the downside to the spirit box is, depending on where you're at, if you're only trying to talk to one entity, you may be talking to several at a time. So some things might not always come out coherently.
Yeah, the main science behind this is it is scanning through hundreds of either AM or FM channels
Mm-hmm.
at any given time. You have to choose AM or FM. You can't do both of those at the same time, but you choose which one. Uh, but the idea is that when a word comes through clearly, that is an entity using energy to try and make sure that's the word that comes through.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's different speeds it'll travel through. So
Yes.
sometimes if you're listening at AM and you're doing it not fast enough, you'll get like in the third inning,
Yeah, you'll
and
you'll get the radio interference, which is unfortunate. So you want it to go fast enough so where you're not getting that, but at the same getting something. If something tries to come across, it will come across clearly. There are many different varieties of spirit box. Some even have temperature readers in them, which would notice a dip in temperature or a rise in temperature.
mhm.
The thing about the spirit box, though, is it is a great tool if you want to try the Estes method.
Again, another reason not to go alone because you
Mm-hmm.
need another person to do the SS method.
Yes. Uh,
Have we gone over the SS method?
no, if I was just about to, though. But if
Well, yes,
go ahead.
yeah. From what I know of the SS method, it was developed by oh, I forgot their first name, but
His last name.
is Estes.
No, it's not. His last name isn't Estes. He did it in Estes, basically in the Stanley Hotel.
hmm
Yes.
and the way the SS method works
Mm-hmm.
is you're not just using the radio, but you're using a person as a filter because everyone hears things differently and have has different how should I put it, filters in their brain. The
Mm-hmm.
human brain is built to notice patterns. It's the way it is. It's why we can see a random splotching of ink and think, "Hey, there's a face right there." And where one person looks like, "Hey, those are two jars that are pressed against each other."
Yeah.
It's pattern recognition and the way the person filters it. The Estes method takes the spirit box and combines it with a set of noise canceling headphones.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're filtering out everything else except for what you're hearing on that.
Yeah. Basically, you become the
And
conduit
but where the information really comes in is from the second person who is asking questions out loud
that you
and listening
cannot
for
hear.
right. So if you have no clue what they're asking, what they're saying, you have no idea why the word peanut butter would come through, but you're transferring. This thing just said peanut butter. You have no clue if that person said, "What's your favorite color?" How do I? What's your name?
What's your
Or
favorite
they may
food?
have asked, "What was your favorite food?"
You
And
can
they
ask
and now they
any.
just went jelly.
Yeah. You can ask any questions at all, and sometimes, like I said before, sometimes you'll get random words coming spewing out that won't make sense, and that's more than likely because there's multiple entities trying to talk at one time. But then there'll be times where they are dead on with their what they're saying. They may say your name, they may say the person's who is being the conduit's name, they might say what they did, who they are,
hmm
what they want to do to you.
And then there'll be plenty of times where you just hear absolute nothing. You just hear static.
And the point of the Estes method is to turn it up so that you can't hear even with anyone asking you questions. So it's going to be kind of loud. So if you've got sensitive hearing like tendonitis, isn't it? It might not be
Yeah,
an
that's one.
thing you want to do. You might want to be the one asking the questions while someone else does goes under. And the best thing to do is censor deprivation with it. So
Yeah,
blindfold the person, put the headphones on, and they turn it up to as loud as they need, so they can't hear you ask questions. But you don't.
and apparently,
Go ahead.
one of the other things that would help with this is you actually trying to enter into a bit of a trance-like state. So it's more of an instinctual, and do that. Be sitting down somewhere comfortable, and if it's something that you can do a gentle rocking motion with,
Mhm.
it'll actually help you decipher what's coming through a little bit better. Now, there will be plenty of times where this just gives you nonsense or nothing, or it'll seem like they're just not responding to what the questions are asked, and then a half hour or 45 minutes later, something else goes off, and it all ties together. This is really about paying attention and just trying to listen. The spirit box itself is all about active listening, not about trying to get them to answer the question you want them to answer.
Um, that is true, and sometimes it will take a while. You might get a couple different responses and then the response you wanted. So
Hmm.
it's all about, just having patience and listening. Um, so that is something that is neat to do. I've wanted to try it in the past with um, the group that I was a part of, but I think they were a bit afraid to try the Estes method, which is okay. It's something different. It's honestly something different because it can creep you out a bit. But the next picture, the the famous EMF reader.
Okay, does anyone know what this thing was actually built for? If you have an idea, mark the timestamp right now. Go down and put it in a comment. What is the EMF reader? We're gonna give you a couple moments to pause it. Go ahead and do that. Okay. Final warning: the EMF reader was not built to detect ghosts.
Nope.
Uh, honey, what was it built for?
EMF is short for electromagnetic field. It is to test
Hmm.
where electricity is.
Not phenomenon. All the times I hear it's electromagnetic phenomenon. No, it's not phenomenon.
A
It's field.
phenomenon is spelled PH, not F.
I know, I know, but I hear people use that all the time, and I'm both times concerned and saddened about the state of affairs for our educational system.
And true. Um, yes, this again is in the game, in a lot of the paranormal games now. But this specifically, what you do with it is you push the button down, and you go to every wall socket, every part of the room you're in to test to see if there's any live electricity running through those lines. If they're not, that light will only stay green, which is
Yeah,
a
this was a
which I was
sorry.
that's okay, which is a good thing to know. Especially if you go into some place supposedly that is without electricity, air quotations if you can't see. Um, and you basically use this piece of equipment to sit here and detect like the fields around you, the electronical fields around you. It will go off near a fridge. It will go off near anything that is putting off or taking in energy.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're in a place with no electricity and it starts going off, that means that the spirit or entity that is near you is trying to gain energy, trying to pull it in so it can do something, whether it be to communicate with you, to move something, to touch you, to basically appear. It's drawing energy in.
Yeah, this is built in conjunction with using a stud finder, so that whenever you're drilling into a wall, if you're trying to hang something, you know you're still drilling into solid wood support, and to make sure you're not drilling into an electrical cable going behind that wall.
Exactly. Very much
Yeah.
so. Um, with this, you can get some responses. It can sometimes even jump up to red. Um, Sometimes entities find this the easiest thing because they just need to go near it to communicate. Um, but by all means, though, this is not just. There's different kinds. This is not just the only EMF reader out there. There are many different kinds of styles and shapes that rely on the same type of thing. But the thing that you have to notate is that if you say you're in your house and you know there's a certain part of the place that gives you issues with feeling like something's following you, whether it being going upstairs or downstairs or through a certain part of the house. It may be because of the electricity lines that are running through that area, and that is usually what they call a fear cage, or I think a Faraday cage.
No, fear cages
Fear
are
cage.
Faraday
For
cages are
okay.
keeping electricity out.
Okay. And which can give someone who's extremely sensitive the feeling of being followed or stalked.
Yes, there are people who are just sensitive to electromagnetic phenomenon. The correct use of this right now, phenomenon,
Phenomenal.
where uh,
And it can be
some people are
debunked.
sensitive to, yeah, because it's easy to find this because you will be able to trace it back to the source, and the
Mm-hmm.
source will not waver or change. And some people, this is where you'll get people complaining of feelings of anxiety,
Yes.
like they're not alone, like something is watching them. High electromagnetic fields can cause all of this
I
because it will mess with your inner ear and with just all of your senses.
I personally have had experience with that fear cage in my grandparents' house. Going down these set of stairs to the basement didn't have an issue, but coming up, it felt like there's something chasing me up the stairs, and I had to run up the stairs.
So I have to ask you, with that house, was it a finished basement or was it an open basement?
It wasn't finished.
Okay. Did it use the old ball, the old not ball and chain, but the tube wiring?
That I don't know. I do know that my grandfather was a handyman who kind of dabbled in everything, so it could have been something he did at some point. But I was always that way
Yeah.
when, you know, ever since I was a child. But when you're in a place that has no electricity and it goes off, you know something's not
It's a
right.
lot more concerning.
Yes. You know that something is trying to pull the energy. They will start draining the batteries either from your phone, your equipment. Your equipment might stop working suddenly. You might even get a corrupted file because they tried doing that. Um, you may even start feeling lightheaded yourself or sick and start vomiting. It's because they're draining the energy from anything they can leech on off of.
Now, one funny thing about this particular piece of equipment,
Mm-hmm.
it was not designed to be turned off and then turned off on again. In order to have this piece of equipment actually functioning, you have to have a constant pushing on that little.
Right
You
here.
see the top of it?
Yep, that
Yeah.
square right there.
Yeah.
You just push it in
Yeah.
and hold it.
Now, the funniest thing I ever saw, the TV show Ghost Hunters. They wanted to be able to set this down and just let it go, so there would be absolutely no no question if someone was interfering with it themselves. And the best way they found to make that happen is to shove a penny in the top of that.
And copper is a conductive unit itself.
Yeah. Uh, but if you ever watch any of their older episodes, you'll see these with just a penny sticking out of them, and it's always got me a little bit of chuckle because that's not the way this was designed to be used for. This is not designed to find ghosts.
Yes.
It's just
But
hard to
all
it gives
of
you
the
evidence hard to explain.
yes, and all the people, all the ghost hunters that we know of out there, heck, even the Warrens had their own version of it.
Hmm.
Um, but all the ghost hunters we know out there, like Ghost Hunters Taps, um, Sam and Colby, Elton with the Overnight Channel,
Overnight.
which I love Elton. Um, you know, Twin Paranormal, they all use an EMF reader like this or a different style that is
And
still in
you'll
the
hear
air.
from them. There's some places where these just do not go off once at all.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And that's even more confusing to a lot of people because these will just not look like they're effective at all, and then you'll get to another place where these are the only thing that work, and they work really well. And it's like go to this color, and well, it goes to that color, and then it Ooh,
Yeah.
it's you'll notice that in a lot of this, there's a lot of different technology, and it really is hit or miss. But when it hits, those misses make it feel more relevant.
hmm And for anyone that is watching us live, feel free to ask questions if you ever have them, and we will definitely talk with you about it. If you're watching this on YouTube, understand this is pre-recorded. We will answer your questions in the comments below.
Though
Um,
we do have a Twitch and we do have a Discord
mhm.
for if you want to ask live questions.
Yep, that is true. And now we come to the ovulus. There are different. There are many different ovuluses.
I know. I'm a 12-year-old because the name always gets me.
What an ovulus?
Yeah. It's not dirty, but in my brain it sounds dirty.
Mm, it's not phallus.
I wasn't thinking phallus.
But either way, there's many different forms of the ovulus. There's many different types, and each type has its own variety. But usually they have a set amount of words, like a bank of words that come. They'll either you'll either get a one word, or you might get a complete sentence, or a couple words. I
Hmm.
personally don't have this variety. I actually have one that I know fellow paranormal investigators have on their phone called Spirit Talker, which does the same thing. But you have to use the phone application on airplane mode so you don't get the radio interference.
Now, I've seen a couple different models of these as well too,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some that have words, and there's some that have tones that will just whenever they detect a fluctuation, they'll just start making sound. I have never seen the sound one have anything put together a word from just making the sounds. I believe if we ever found that, that'd be one of the best pieces of evidence where it's not going from a word bank, but it's something like I. You. That's what I'm expecting. I hear that. That's gonna be like the best source of confirmation right there.
Uh, I think we have a thing that follows that we might be coming across soon. So keep that mind and thought. Or keep that thought in mind. There we go. But with this one, it definitely, if the ghost wants to talk to you, it will tell you a direct answer.
Hmm.
It,
Now, sorry, I love this piece of equipment.
I understand, but can I please finish?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. With this, it's you have to also understand if there are multiple entities trying to come through, you're probably not gonna always get the answer you want. So be patient. Give them a chance to respond, and you might actually get the response that you wanted several moments down the line after several different responses have transpired, just like the spirit box.
Yeah. Now it only works as well as the bank of words it has.
Mm-hmm.
So the more words it has, the more it can say. However, this is one of the items that's key to the funniest interaction I've ever seen. This was another
You have
ghost
a.
hunting show, and they were in a bathroom asking for stuff, and they turned this to the words and immediately yelled nerds at them.
Oh yes, I called them nerds. Yeah, I think that
And
wasn't
they,
that
they are
paranormal
very
file.
much nerds.
Was it like paranormal files? I forgot which one it
Yeah, it was
was.
paranormal files.
Yeah, but the thing with this piece of equipment is it can be influenced by the entity as well,
Hmm.
especially when it's a dark entity. Because these words will come out across like I'm scared, you know, or he scares me. It'll just say it plain and simple. But when it's getting
Hmm.
manipulated by a spirit, like say the word hell, it'll go hell or
Yeah,
devil. It drags the word out in a very eerie way.
yeah. These can either do small phrases or they can do single words.
Right,
Uh, and it can get a little strange sometimes with the way the words come out,
right.
but
Yeah.
the science behind this is,
It's still fascinating to me.
yeah, it's just hard to figure out what's actually happening. If it's reading, if it's an entity, or if it's just a magnetic field that's interacting with because we don't see it there.
Yeah,
Um,
I can understand what you're
but
saying there.
sometimes it's spot on, and sometimes it's like the fox jumps over the candlestick, and you're like, okay, 15 murders, and that's what we get. All right.
Yeah, that's the reason why you have to. I don't want to say take it like a grain of salt, but
Yeah.
you have to be open minded to what's coming across. Alrighty. Oops. Make sure I didn't double over. No. Okay. Now this one. This wonderful piece of equipment is called an EMF. An EVP. Sorry. Ah, good lord. Slap me now. Um, this is an EVP where it's a electric voice phenomenon. Um, there are different kinds of this where you can just simply let it record as you ask questions. You usually want to give space in between the questions, like, a few seconds or so, like maybe 10 seconds or 30 seconds in between each question to see if you get some answers. Then there are ones that will only record when something is being said. And that's when you go to play it back, you'll hear your questions, but you may hear responses, screams, growls, someone crying or laughing. You will actually hear it. And sometimes you might not be able to make it out just right because it sounds a bit garbled.
Now, EVPs, they've been around forever. The just trying to record and catch something, it's not a new phenomenon. It's nothing recent. As long as there's been recording devices,
Yes.
mysterious ones have occurred. Personal experience, and one of the weirdest things I've ever heard, and this is from, I worked in a call center. I've worked for many, many years as a telemarketer. I've heard hundreds of thousands of voicemails. The creepiest voicemail I ever heard was one person going, "Yeah, go ahead and give me a call back," and then you hear in the very background, "They don't want to," in an entirely separate voice.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Is that?
Someone else, or is that
Do
an
they mean to
actual.
do that?" Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Which, that's the reason why you want to make sure your area that you're doing this in is secure, that there really isn't anyone really around you other than your group. And to always remain silent in between each question. Don't try and overtalk each other. Just ask one question at a time. And you'd be surprised at your findings. You may not even get anything again, but some of the shocking things that can come out of an EVP is astounding. Sometimes it can be ear piercing.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes you could sit here and hear something. Like you can hear like get out or run or something, and then you're like, let's listen to that again, and you replay it, and it's not there anymore. That's another sign that the entity has wiped it out. Doesn't want to be recorded.
Now, these can be picked up by these kind of recording devices. They can be picked up on your phone. They can be picked up on a mic from a video camera. EVP is
Just
not just one type of device.
yeah,
It's anything that has to do with a voice that is not there.
yeah, disembodied voice. It can be caught on anything, um, but these are specially designed to record such
Yeah.
things.
And with newer technology,
Like
with
new,
like phones,
yeah,
and
updated versions of these things.
you actually get less EVPs on the newer technology, simply because there is noise filtering built into so much technology that If it's very quiet, it will not record.
Or if it's too
Now,
garbled, it won't record.
funny enough, when the voice recording phenomenon where it would only record if it heard a voice started to become popular,
Mm-hmm.
um, they got too many complaints
Yeah.
because people would be using it like, well, one of the most infamous reports is coroners, because coroners couldn't touch the device. They didn't want it recording all the time because of where they had their hands and everything. So they just needed a device that would record only when they're speaking and they're taking notes. And they complained too much to the manufacturers about all these other voices that kept on getting recorded on their device.
Yeah. That
And
is
they're
true.
like, this is a faulty device. It just has voices popping out of it all the time. I'm
That
not even in the room.
there is another device that a device that we will be talking about that has done something similar, and they actually stopped making them because of that.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Okay, this is definitely a. We'll briefly discuss this. It is definitely a good thing to have on you because it frees up your hands. It is a
Hmm.
head-mounted, basically flashlight, so you can see where you're going. You can
Yeah.
do lights out if you're stationary and turn it off, but you need to be able to see where you're going. You don't want to trip over some rusted thing, get yourself cut up, or and get tetanus or what have you. You want to be able to, or fall through a floor. You want to be able to see where you're going. It is a piece of protection in regards
Yeah.
to keeping you safe in your surroundings.
This isn't just for ghost hunting. This is also for urban exploring,
Yes,
for hiking, anything
hmm
of that nature. This is just a useful piece of equipment.
that is true. But going on, this everyone knows what this is. A lot of people call it the Ouija board, the OG board, the Wega board, but it's the Ouija board. Okay, this if you don't know how to do this properly, you are screwed. You are legitimately screwed because once you open that door for communication, that line of communication, and you don't close it properly, it stays open even if you are finished talking, which basically leaves a version of an open portal for spirits to come through at any given time point. You need to make sure that the way you open it is the way you say goodbye. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. So that's why this bit of equipment, though effective, um, usually brings about bad entities. It's not always good that come through. That's why it is important to know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how to keep yourself protected. This isn't just for funsies.
Yeah, a spirit board is very, very old. It's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. At the same time, it's hard to say that it's truly effective from the skeptic side because otherwise, why is it being sold by like Hasbro?
Because they're trying to market it as a game, just but the thing is it's not a game. If someone does it, they're opening a portal of sorts or line of communication to the other side.
Hmm.
And you can't sit here and, well, he's pushing it. No, he's pushing it. I'm not pushing it. And I'm like, you always have to keep your fingers on it when it's in motion. It's usually you barely put your fingers on it. And if it moves with you, you would feel if someone's pushing it. Because in order to use it properly, you barely have to put your fingers on it.
Now, I may seem a little weird with this because I'm going to specifically say if you're looking into the paranormal, if you're trying to actually investigate, steer away from this. It's not
Definitely,
just
by
because
all
of that,
means.
but the main reason why is because this was also the one of the main thing used by hucksters, frauds, fakes. No evidence you ever collect from this will be taken with any credibility. Uh, it's
Even,
just not worth it.
but just because it may not be um, credible bit of evidence, you know, you still may experience something very real to you.
Yeah, it's just to me, it's not worth the risk. It's
It,
not worth the time or the hassle for it.
yeah, because with this, if you do this, you are more than likely inclined to become possessed. If it does work, because there have been instances where it has been known to work, spelling out certain entities' names, which we will not go over, and
Yeah, there's no point in bringing attention to those things.
yeah, because the more attention you give, the more power you give. Okay. And if you don't know how to open it up or close it properly, you are going to cause yourself more harm than good. So stay
Exactly.
away from this.
So this is coming from both of us. This is just a big no, not
Yeah,
worth it.
not worth it.
Uh,
But you're, but apparently, I know I'll keep that comment to myself.
yeah, there's no buts to this. It's
Yeah, nope. I was gonna make a joke, but it's not funny. That's not nice. This is not something to laugh about. You should take this utterly seriously. Don't mess with it. Don't ever mess with it. Okay, then this little doodad here. It looks like what?
was not expecting that.
What? Me to say doodad?
No, the plastic ear.
I will explain this. I will explain this. It falls along the kind of the same lines as a parabolic microphone, but this basically is like superhuman hearing. You put your headphones on, plug it your noise canceling headphones. You plug those on, put them on, and you turn that on, and you can hear one, in two different directions at one time.
Is this an ASMR recorder?
You could use it as such.
I
Yes.
was just curious because this caught me off guard.
But it actually is a piece of ghost equipment that where you try to see if you can hear sounds. If you say you're sitting in a hallway, and you're trying to see which way a sound is coming from, you can pick it up with one of those.
Okay, I can understand for directionality. It makes more. It's just this design. It's so hard for me to take this design serious.
But you should. It is actually a
I
good piece of equipment.
okay, I believe you. I just
Yeah. Then we have the EDI. I don't know what that stands for. I really don't know much about this, other than it's like a different type of EMF reader, as you can see down here. The scale from green to red.
yeah, it looks like the EMF temperature,
Yeah, EMF
uh,
temperature. I think it also does
infrared.
a bit, yeah,
Okay,
and it is a more
no,
advanced form of the EMF.
mm-hmm.
But you want to stick with pieces of equipment that you understand more when you're doing your investigations with your friends or partners, and not something you have no idea, because you don't want to falsify the evidence you've gained
Mm-hmm.
by misunderstanding what is being read on something like this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll be honest. I know technology is always advancing, but if I were to pull this out someplace, I feel like I'm more going to be on an episode of Doctor Who or Star Trek.
Okay, behave. Now this one.
Readings indicate no life signs detected.
This one is one of my favorite pieces of equipment used by paranormal investigators. It is called the music box. It is a motion detector. Basically, what you do is you set this up, get it calibrated, set it up in a spot facing like down a hallway or at a door archway area. And if something passes within its limited range, it will start to play music. A lot of times it's very eerie music, just to add for the spook factor, which I love. Or it could play something nice too, as well. But
Hmm.
usually it's like you can test it out and you can walk in front of it, walk out until it's, and you'll see how the range works. Um,
Hmm.
but if you notice it's going off and registering that there's movement in front of it and there's nothing there, how would you explain it?
No, this is honestly one of my favorite ghost hunting pieces of equipment, just because it takes technology that seems to work. This is a just a basic motion detector,
Mm-hmm.
but what they've added to it has just made it absolutely adorable to me.
It's
If you are
creepy
not
and adorable.
if you are not familiar with how that music box part works, it's a little drum. And the little drum has little nubs on it. And as it moves, one of those nubs is going to click one of those corresponding metal
Tones.
chimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the way music boxes. You'd wind them up, you'd let them play, and it would just be this drum going, playing the different chimes at the different times.
Yeah,
Um,
but with this one, whatever is moving in front of it, whether it be seen or unseen, sends an electrical message to the trigger that causes it to spin on its own.
yeah, I absolutely love the inventiveness of this. Yes, it can be very creepy, but I'll be honest. If I had a whole bunch of people just bust into my house like, we have something we want to know, and they put down a little music box, just playing music, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
I'd be interested. I'd be kind of curious. I'd play with that thing, just like, what the hell is this? What's going on here?
yeah.
Uh,
Is definitely a useful piece of equipment, and a lot of the times it has gone off for a number of paranormal investigators out there.
hmm
It honestly can sense unseen movement.
Yeah.
It is that
So,
hair triggered.
hmm Same way as if you want to put up a trap to see if anyone broke into your house and you want to hear it, someone snuck in, they'd trip this too. People would trip this very easily. Animals, pets, they
Yep.
trip it very easily.
Just to let y'all
Uh,
know, dust does not. Falling dust will not trigger this. It
yeah.
has to be actual movement by something, either a seen or unseen force.
Now I know we talk a lot about video games as well sometimes too,
Mm-hmm.
and there was recently a promotion put out a new preview for Five Nights at Freddy's: The Secret of the Mimic. In that, they showcase one animatronic is known as DJ Music Man, but a very old version of him. And everyone's like, "Why has he got a meat grinder for a mouth?" I'm like, "That's not a meat grinder. That's one of the drum music boxes." And then I realized how old I felt at that moment because I played with those, and they're like, "No one recognizes this thing." I'm like, "Oh no,"
So, how does that correspond to this?
because that's what's right there in the center, the drum music box.
Mm, okay. Moving on. Of course,
Sorry.
it's okay. The thermometer. Yes, thermometer, as the game says, but no. The thermometer is a good tool to detect variance or differentials in temperature in an area. How it can be like 66 degrees over there, but 78 on the opposite side, or if it's just in one corner. It can help. It's not as effective as it could be as a thermal temperature gun, but it still can help you kind of narrow down the general area of where something might be if something actually does manifest.
Now I'll be honest. This can give interesting information, but this is one of those pieces of equipment that's very easy to fake information with. So please, if you are investigating, please do this with some measure of
Decorum.
yes, because the temperatures are heat does not immediately change. Cold does not immediately change. There is a time lapse between something being very cold before it goes to warm, and something being very warm before it goes to cold. It's exceptionally easy to make one warm spot, step away, and then, oh look, there's a hot spot right there, and because you put it there 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes ago, and it's not going to change that quickly. Um,
That's why when you're doing an investigation, you want any kind of a credibility, is you want to be truthful, utterly transparent with your
yeah.
documentation. Alrighty, then we have this handy dandy device.
What's
This
that?
this one is a one where you can tell it to come up and tap it, and it will tell you if it's happy, sad, mad, angry, what have you,
Oh
or
yeah.
or
Okay.
or it will go yes or no.
Yeah. This is basically sort of an EMF, if I'm correct, because that's what it's reading. It's reading the electromagnetic field.
But it has more
Right.
of a direct response than an
Right.
EMF reader. It will detect what the entity is trying to tell you rather than playing with lights.
I I honestly have no clue how this thing really works to know the happy, sad, or neutral.
Yeah,
I find it fascinating, but I
it's
don't
just a
know how it
different it's
actually.
a different mode of using it. So you can
Yeah.
turn it on to just emotion, or you can turn it on to yes or no, and of that such. There are paranormal investigators who really love using this. I think it's a neat and fascinating tool. Um, like you could ask it yes or no questions, or even complex questions, and it's like yes, yes. It's like trying to tell you yes, that's correct, yes, or
I
no.
just wish I. Yeah. I just wish I understood the science behind what what truly triggers the yes or what truly triggers a no. What is it reading to trigger one or the other? Because that I have no clue how this works that way.
Like we said before, it could be on the measurement scale of what an EMF reader is but without detecting electromagnetic fields, it's just detecting emotion, intent. But it's still a good piece of equipment.
Oh, I find it fascinating, especially whenever it starts getting spot on for yes or no's, and you're like, ah, I know this one.
Yes, the REM pod. You can set this up anywhere, and you will hear it go off. Each light has its own tone. If it
And
if
meaning, right?
Yes. I don't know all the meanings. I do know some of them. But usually the one in the center is red, and that means it's sitting there ready, waiting for um, some kind of interaction. And you have to get damn close for these things to set off. It
Yeah,
re-
I know.
Go
I
ahead.
know one mode is definitely temperature.
Yes, one mode is definitely temperature. Um, one mode is being actually touched.
Hmm.
One is movement, so it's kind of like also text movement around it. But again, you have to get really, really close to this.
Yeah,
And so,
it's trying to take the electromagnetic field. Just so people understand, everything has this field. We,
mm-hmm,
as living beings, have this field, and it's detecting any disruption in its own field.
that is,
So
and
if we're reaching out to touch something, it registers that hey, something's close to me.
there'll be times where it won't go off at all.
Hmm. This is
Or
one of those.
go
Go ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
This is one of those fascinating pieces of equipment that when it does work, all the times it doesn't work makes it seem more credible and more realistic.
Yes, and there'll be times where multiple lights, like it'll bounce between the lights because multiple things are happening at one time. It's that kind of measuring tool. It's that sensitive.
Hmm.
Now, this is one of my new favorite. It's called a death bell.
Now this works on the sort of a similar premises to the REM pod, right?
I
where it's detecting
guess
something being close to it?
no. But
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
what's
no, but yes. Um, you can set it to either a low sensitivity or a high sensitivity, but you can ask questions of the entities that you're trying to reach, and if they respond, they will actually ring the bell as a yes, or they won't ring it for a no
or you can also ask for two for yes, one for no. I
type
think.
of thing. Yes,
Yeah.
it's just basically it's just like a service bell, and there's no way to rig or set this up so that it's times with your questions. No, this is a legitimate, and again, a newer legitimate piece of equipment.
I just wish I knew what this was detecting. If it was like the motion detector, or if it was
And this one is more
electro.
of a touch.
Okay, so
It
this is
detects
more of the
touch.
field one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But it can be very creepy if you're doing a session,
I believe it.
especially if you're not anywhere near it and it goes off. Okay, this is what we were talking about earlier. With this is another form of spirit box and a noise canceling headphones, and what we mean by sensory deprivation by blindfolding for the Estes method. This is a an example of setting up for an Estes method, like we talked
Hmm.
about earlier. Okay, another thing you need is, of course, a camera, a video camera. Not just a regular camera, but a video camera that has like night vision, IR
Hmm.
lighting, so that way you can see what you're seeing ahead of you. Um, and the unfortunate thing about it is sometimes the lights will go out because that, like we talked about earlier, the spirit is drawing energy, or it might corrupt your actual, oh, excuse me, feed, or you know you've been filming and why is there like 15 minutes missing?
Yeah, this is what you use to capture some of your best evidence, but at the same time, it can also be messed with
Heavily
if
messed
you.
with by an
Yeah,
entity that isn't interested in being recorded.
yeah.
Um,
It's a blessing and a problem sometimes.
yeah, and they come in many different sizes, shapes, and or forms.
Though I will fully admit, when Jennifer has dragged me along to hunts, I prefer being the camera guy simply because it's a lot easier to see what's going on.
Yeah, I like to go pitch black in my investigations at times. At least when I'm stationary in one spot. Of course,
Yeah.
using light to get around. This is another one of my favorite. It isn't a new invention, but it is newer in a sense. It's called the Boo Buddy. It is a form of a REM pod,
Hmm.
different type of REM pod. But this thing, if you're easy to scare, might not you might not want to use this one. But this is a good one for if you're trying to interact with children because it's cute, cuddly teddy bear. But
It is the creepiest thing I've ever seen in use.
yes, the reason being for that, it will if entities touch it in certain spots, it will go like, "I didn't quite hear you. Can you tell me again?" It means one of its ears caught something. You're holding my hand. Let's hold hands. Or if
Yeah.
it touches the belly, that tickled.
And occasionally it'll just prompt like, "Would you like to play a game?" And no, no. Every time I hear this sucker ask for playing a game, I'm like, "Nope, I'm out. I'm good."
Or it'll kind of
Mhm.
freak out and say, "Can you read me a story?" I mean, it is a good thing, but it can creep you out.
Yeah. For those '90s kids who had Furbies, this
Yeah.
thing is far less creepy than a Furby. It feels like it does the exact same thing at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Also, the flashlights. You can. I would suggest if you ever use flashlights in your investigation and do the flashlight method, you pick different colors. So that way you can say, okay, if your name is Harold, can you please turn on the blue flashlight? Or if I'm talking to someone else, please touch the red flashlight. Because some of these you set up just so that they either have to be just tapped or twisted, just very little to turn on or off.
Hmm. That I'm just gonna say, in general use, you can't have too many flashlights when you're in the middle of the night in a
Banded.
place that's not necessarily the safest.
Exactly.
Flashlights will just help you.
That
So.
is true. That is very true. And then, of course, the cat ball. The cat balls are actually a cat toy um,
Hmm.
that light up with motion because they're batting it around, what have you. I have found this to be an effective tool of all time. On a couple of my investigations, I've set them up in various places and had them go off of their own accord, which I actually do have documentation, video documentation of. Um, like you actually have a breeze, a bug crawling on it, let's say, or you know, won't make this go off. You actually have to physically touch it or move it for it to go off. Um, like I went into the Coles Theater, and we had had spent quite a while in there investigating, and then I asked a question. I'm like, give us a sign if you would like us to leave, because you always want to respect the entities. If they don't want you there, leave, get out, because then they will start to become aggressive and might start trying to harm you. We took that as a sign to leave because it lit up and it was 30 feet away from anyone there. Um,
Yeah.
we had the one in another location. It just kept going off and off and off, and we all thought, "Hey, what's going on with this? Maybe it's busted," you know. Um, so we were gonna give a chance. We said, "Okay, if you're playing with this, please step aside," because I was filming it. I was actually watching it live. Do it this by itself, and it just sat there, kept going off and off. Then it stopped, and then go off and off and off and off, and then it stopped, and it just kept repeating. And someone had said, "Well, let's change it out for a different one and see if that one's just broken." And we actually caught an EVP go, "No,
Now I have one bit of advice if you're using this.
what is that?"
Try and set it place somewhere level.
Yeah, level, flat, where it won't go rolling all over the place or easily to, if you're walking, won't be disturbed.
Yeah.
Because if you're
Yeah,
go ahead.
this is not the best if you're on an old wooden floor that creaks and groans with every step. Because while it does take a good bit to get them to move and to trigger, it doesn't take a whole lot. If you're like jumping up and down, you could trigger it.
That is true. That is true.
If you're on concrete and you're jumping up and down, that shouldn't trigger it. But
Yeah. Let's see here. But this is another thing. The dots. It usually comes in either a pen or you can set up a grid that shoots out a grid, or you could get a special device that gets you to, to like that sets up a wider range,
mhm.
different colors. Um, but usually, if something unseen walks through it, it will disrupt the feel that this creates.
Likewise, if you're trying to map out some area and if you're looking for anything moving, like a ball or something like that, it makes it easier to track where something was versus where it is.
Yeah.
Because you can like, oh no, it was over that way, and now you can see a little bit better it was moved over that way. Um, at the same time, uh, don't use this to make you play rave, please.
It,
Don't do red and green and go dit, 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 dit. Please don't.
yeah.
Someone around you will be like, ah, dude, you're making me nauseous.
And some people could be very sensitive to those kind of lights.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Then you have our next bit of equipment, which is this is something that I was talking to you about earlier that you were kind of talking about the spirit box, and that
Oh, okay.
these are some older models of such things where it cuts away the static of the radio frequencies,
Hmm.
and you get the warbled words that sound kind of haunting when they come out.
Yeah, I've seen these used a couple times. Uh, Honestly, it's the noises just don't seem like they're saying something to me most of the time. I know other people say, no, no, it said this. Like I just don't hear it.
Sometimes that they do work like that, and there are sometimes where you get clear responses. Like one notable case where paranormal investigators went into Jeffrey Dahmer's house. They were asking him questions, and like one of this thing is like they asked if do you feel bad about what how do you feel given everything that you've done, and it came across sad. In his afterlife he feels suppose I don't know if he actually does or not, feels supposedly
Uh,
feels remorseful for what he
I just
did.
really hope he feels eternal torment.
For what he did, yes, he deserves
Yeah.
it. But then there's the dowsing rods. These were often used to find things like water and like other source materials. But with these, you hold them parallel to each other, one in each hand, and you don't sit here. You don't turn them yourself. You just hold still. You ask questions like spin outwards for no, cross for yes. And then you ask a question, and it will either cross or will spin outwards on of its own accord. And if you ask, say, can you point in the direction of where you're standing? Both rods will move simultaneously together and point in a direction.
Hmm.
You all you have to do is hold on to the handles. You don't have to turn the handles; they will turn on their own. You know. But
Yeah,
what?
dowsing in and of itself is an ancient tradition used for, like you said, finding water.
Mhm.
It's also been used for people trying to find gold, silver. It goes back to just people trying to find answers
Yeah,
or this or that. It's ancient. There's real no. I can't say there's no science behind it, but it's very hard to show the science behind it.
because
Uh,
it's
so
it's a simple tool.
yeah,
There is no electricity. There is no electronics to it at all.
and at the same time, sort of like the Ouija board. This is very capable for humans, even subconsciously, to just be doing it themselves. Um,
I do have a pair.
for me, yeah, for me, it would mean more if they were stationary, affixed to something that doesn't move, and but that's not
Well,
how they work.
no, they need that human connection.
Yeah,
If someone can show us where they're doing it without falsifying it, that'd be great.
yeah. This is
Um,
it. Does it make it for entertaining? Yeah, they can be very entertaining, but it's hard to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this bit of equipment is a full spectrum camera with an IR light. These are usually set up at various points to capture what's going on in a room. People set this up all over. Sometimes people have come back to see them knocked over or completely shut off because the entity did not want to be filmed, did not want to share, or drained
I
it
have.
of its battery.
I have a theory about these. Why these things get knocked over so much? Why they get turned off so much? Why they get broken so much? Because entities we believe are energy on a different level that we just cannot detect or see.
Mm-hmm.
If you're throwing a bunch of strange light in different uh ways into a room, and this thing just wants some peace and quiet, how would you feel if someone just walked into your room and threw on the brightest light ever, blinding you constantly in your room?
You have a valid point.
So that's why I have to wonder about some of these entities, because yeah, they can happen at any time of day, but
Mm-hmm.
they seem to be more prevalent at night. You have to wonder if UV light on its own, or if ultraviolet light, uh, when amplified through any sort of these spectrums that it's going through, is either painful or just aggravating for these for spirits.
Yeah.
Because just because we don't see in certain spectrums doesn't mean that they don't see or feel in certain spectrums.
Right. Alrighty. Whoops. I just did something I shouldn't have done.
Oh no!
That's okay. Hush you. Alrighty. Then I love this. Sorry about that. My pictures decided to go to the other screen. Of course, here's another set around of um, cameras with built-in IR lighting, so that way you can mount them to like corners of the room and what have you. They come in many different styles, shapes, and models.
Now the traditional use for these are, of course, security.
Yes.
You put these up, and you can keep an eye on your call center, your backyard, your garage, without alerting people that hey, there's a light looking at this.
Yeah, they won't
So,
be. The IR lighting doesn't show up in like if you're looking at an IR light and it's on, you won't see it being on, but the camera will pick you up in full light looking at it.
hmm
Now this nifty device I think is awesome. Is on the newer side of ghost and investigating or paranormal investigating. This is a motion sensor.
it looks like a pyramid from Stargate.
I can understand. I can understand. But this is a pretty neat directional tool. It's kind of like those ears, you know, that you were kind of
You're,
laughing at.
uh, yeah.
But say if a you see my cursor, correct?
hmm
Say if a ghost passed by this side of the thing, right? Only this
hmm
light would light up, whether it be green or red, depending on what color it is. Same thing if it went on just this side. This one would be the only one lit up. Only
This
once.
kind of technology I really like because it's simple, but it's applying that simple in such a way to give more complex answers.
Yeah, and it also follows along the lines of the like the cat ball. Again, motion.
hmm
It senses motion. The REM pod. Another variation of this, or a motion sensor of sorts, is the tripwire. Um, I don't know how better else to call it, but it's like a long line of motion sensor lighting
hmm
where it will pulsate or flicker whenever something moves by it. But it's a long stretch of them, so you'll see if something's walking towards you just by how it flickers.
Yeah.
Which I think that one's kind of neat as well. Alrighty, let's see here. Oh, is that it? Wow, I guess that is it. I mean, there are various other kinds of equipment out there for ghost hunting. Um, a lot of people like to use trigger objects. Sometimes it's cigarettes, booze, dolls,
Arts.
cards, yeah. Various different kinds of things. You just have to do your research and find out more about the entity you are trying to contact and find out what they liked or what they did a lot of that made them happy, so to speak, and bring that offering with you. Sometimes you may want to leave that offering with them as a sign of respect. And you always want to thank your entities at the end of an investigation, um, for giving their time and energy, because they
Hmm.
are physically exerting. Well, I can't say physically because they're not physical, but you
I get
get
what
the
I understand what
meaning.
you mean. Yeah, I get the meaning.
They're giving so much energy of themselves to you that you kind of owe it to them to be respectful.
Can I talk about one piece of well, I'll call it equipment for
You
ghost hunting that I know about?
there, like I said, there's many different kinds of equipment out there. We only briefly touched on that, but go ahead.
Flour.
Oh, yep, flour.
It's one of the
Basic
simplest things.
flour.
Yeah.
Not the flowers you go and pick. This is stuff that you use for baking and things like that.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about doing it Home Alone style. I'm not talking about dropping it on the ghost. But what I'm referring to is you sprinkle out flour in a nice even layer, and if you made sure no one was going through that area the entire time, you can go back and then see if there are footprints or disturbances in the flour. Kind of like the way the grid helps you see things better if you're recording. Flour dates back to before you were able to record this kind of information very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if you're going to do that, please clean up after yourself.
Definitely, especially if you're at someone else's place. Um, but with that being said, I do have a quiz for you, David,
Uh oh.
and for the viewing audience if they choose to participate.
Can we insert that little meme of pop quiz hot shot from Speed?
No.
Oh wait, that's probably trademarked. Yeah, you're.
Okay. All right. Question one.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever truly want, of your own accord, to go on an investigation with a group?
It depends where. There are some places I would like to go and
Like what?
investigate. There's some places.
What?
Oh, like the any sort of boat. I would like to go investigate. Either from like the ancient boats to the military boats. I'd like to go there
Okay.
because I'd find the history of it as well fascinating too.
I would
Um,
like to go to places like Waverly Hills or Yorktown, or even some of the far less known haunted places. I just want to go and see, you know, what's there. Not necessarily to debunk, but to have my own experiences and see if maybe there's a way I can help an entity maybe cross over.
see, that's where I wouldn't want to go there. I want to
There,
go places that have like Waverly Hills or the asylums or things. I want to go places that have energy, but I prefer places that have a little bit more positive energy.
I can understand that. I can understand that. All right.
Um,
What do you find interesting about the idea of paranormal investigations, also known as ghost hunt?
I like the science behind it. I like questions we don't have answers to and trying to find those answers.
Yeah, very good. I could see that. What do you find least appealing about paranormal investigating?
Jump scares.
This isn't a video game, though.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of friends who were a-holes. Uh,
Well, I can see if you maybe turned a corner and saw a like either an apparition or a shadow figure. I could see that.
yeah. Otherwise, just from the investigation part of it, what I like the least is spiders.
You're gonna at all times there's a spider within 10 feet of you at all time, no matter
Yes,
where you are.
yes, but in an abandoned building, there's a lot more spiders.
Okay, I
It's a
can
higher
understand
spider to person
ratio.
ratio. Yeah.
Okay, now when investigating, should you go solo or with others, and why?
You should always go with others. Not only just because you have more people to corroborate evidence,
Mm-hmm.
it's safer if anything happens.
That is
Uh,
correct. All right. Should the hunters seek permission or sneak onto property to do their investigation?
100% always permission.
Yeah. The reason being is if you're trespassing, you can be trespassed by the police and receive some jail time. I nearly happened to I nearly had that happen to me on one investigation when we went to a church, and it was an abandoned church. Um, and we didn't ask permission. We just went, investigated. We were absolutely respectful of the place. We actually kind of disgusted with what people had been doing there. But some concerned citizens nearby phoned us in, and we had a nice chat with the police. So it's always best to ask permission from the owner first. Alrighty. Name one piece of equipment and what it does.
Um, Name one.
Yep.
My favorite is the music box because it uses motion detecting in a way that makes it interesting and fascinating at the same time. Because it have to be the music box.
Okay. I like the music box too. Um, can you name at least one famous ghost slash paranormal investigator that isn't Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Damn it, the Warrens are the go-to. Uh,
They were amazing people. They were amazing individuals and um, demonologists and everything. They were truthful and open and honest with it, even when people didn't want to believe them. But
okay.
you notice now people are starting to believe.
Um. Oh, my brain just drew a blank. The from Adventures, not Ghost Adventure, but Ghost Hunters. Oh, I even watch his podcasts and I listen to what is going on because right now he was recently fighting with the people at
Oh yeah, I know who you're
the
talking
Conjuring
about.
house.
I know who you're talking about.
I just can't see
Jason
his face.
Hawes. Jason
Thank you. Yes,
Hawes.
Jason Haas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I very much appreciate him because much like me, he believed, but he wanted to have proof that he could go to anyone and show. He was
That
very
could
skeptical.
yeah,
Yeah,
he wanted his information to be so tight and so um
solid.
yeah, solid that no one could disprove it.
Yeah, I, as I said, that's why I still sort of follow him even now
I do watch his stuff
because
from time to time.
yeah,
I like watching Elton a lot though. Elton Cassie from Overnight.
Elton's journey
Yeah.
over the several years of him doing it was profound. He went from an antagonistic, disrespectful kid, basically. I'm much older than him, so I'm allowed to say that, even though he was an adult, to someone who with a lot more reverence, a lot more uh,
Respect.
respect, and genuine curiosity
Yes.
for the field. He watching that entire journey of his is one of the best things if you can. I really wish they do a like a whole like timeline of his various investigations and the things that changed for him
It's
during them.
well, you can just go to his channel and see.
Yes, you can. But I'll warn everyone right now: there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of video.
Which he's spent
Which,
hundreds and hundreds of hours more just editing.
yeah, it's one of the better sites to go watch. Some of the earlier stuff is a little cringe. Uh,
I
that's
hate
why I
that
kind of
word. I hate that word cringe.
uh, awkward. I'll put it that way. Then
No, you can use cringe, but it's like that whole thing fire. And yeah, I just this newer aged I'm sorry. I'm like, how about you talk normally? Use words that, instead of. But I guess during our time when we were younger and we started things saying like cool beans and things like that, it was the same situation. So,
Why do you keep calling everyone bra? Are
right,
they wearing
brah.
bras?
But yeah,
Yeah.
either. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a generational thing. We're showing our age.
Yeah, that is. But I hope everyone watching enjoyed this episode and podcast of a deep look into the paranormal podcast, and will join us next time. I believe it's on the 23rd when we are going to
Mhm.
talk about Waverly Hills Sanatorium, one of the most renowned haunted locations in the U.S.
A lot of dark history,
Yes.
but also a lot of history that should not be ignored.
Yeah. And a lot of history that also affected and affects the land and the entities there.
Hmm.
So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, we'll see you again next time. And this is Jennifer Wills and David Wills with Deep Look into the Paranormal. Take care. Have a good one.
Stay safe.
Bye bye.